Okay, lucky 13. So we've been working on the whole idea of trusting each other and what do we need to do in order to trust so that we can make durable agreements, so that we can be accountable. And the thing that really compromises trust is that we find ourselves to be so polarized. We are at kind of, and sometimes opposite ends of the spectrum. If you've ever been canoeing, you know that when in a canoe, two-person canoe, when the other person in the canoe leans to the left, you lean to the right. You know, if you've ever been a parent, that when one parent is permissive, you become more strict, right? So we tend to balance each other out. What happens in the larger society, in the larger culture, is that as a part of the community moves in one direction, we want to create balance by moving in the other direction. And the farther we get apart, the more we lean out over the edges of the canoe in order to keep it balanced, the less stable it becomes. So we've become very unstable as a human community because we are so polarized. So we need to do some things to work on how it is that we constructively, creatively address the polarization in a way that heals. So I want to offer some observations about what happens when we get polarized. The more we are polarized, that is, the more we see ourselves as different, the more there is a series of things that become true for all of us. One of the things that if I'm polarized in one direction and I see you're polarized in the other direction, one of the things I'm going to assume about you is that you don't have good facts. You don't understand what's going on here. You are ill-informed. You might even be stupid, right? But you are not living in the same reality that I am, and I know that my reality is based upon true facts and yours on false facts or alternative facts, right? Now, this may not be entirely your fault. It may be that somebody's been feeding you this information that isn't really accurate, but you've been listening to it. You've been taking it in. You are gullible. You are easily swayed. So not only are you ill-informed, you're gullible. And the people who are swaying you, the ones that are pushing you into this polarized perspective, they're doing it for their own personal gain. They've got something to gain from this, and so they are fundamentally portraying the world in a way other than it is so that they get more power or more money or something, and thus they are corrupt. And this isn't just a bad idea. This is, in fact, dangerous. People who follow those ideas, they are actually creating a world that puts the rest of us at risk in some way. So no matter whether I'm to the left or the right, the more I'm leaning out over the edge of that canoe, the farther out I am into that polarized position, the more I'm going to see you, if you're on the other side of that, the other, as stupid, as gullible, as corrupt, and as dangerous. There's one other piece that makes this particularly problematic, which is that there are certain things that if my people do it, if the people who agree with me do it, it's sort of like, well, it's, that makes sense that people would do that. But if the other side does it, that's evidence of how bad or wrong or morally corrupt they are. That's totally immoral behavior. You didn't protect your emails? Well, that makes sense. Oh, you didn't protect your emails, then you're obviously hiding something, right? So we tend to not look at what we do with the same kind of critical lens that we look at everybody else when they're different from us. In order to repair this, we have to begin to move back towards the center of the canoe. We've got to kind of pull in and to be able to relate with each other. But if we do that, if you're leaning left and I'm leaning right, if I move towards the center, the whole boat might tip over. So I want to do it carefully, not too abruptly, but in a way that actually creates safety, even though it will also create vulnerability, right? So we want to be careful about how we begin to lean into each other, how we begin to communicate with each other, and to do that in such a way that we're going to be really cautious and careful. So when I imagine myself beginning a conversation with you, if I see you as representing the opposite pole from me, if I'm going to have a conversation with you, There's certain ways that I'm going to want you to behave, that I'm going to want you to respond to me and to my curiosity. So in order to create balance, I also need to be thinking about how it is that I need to respond if you show that you're curious about my position. How do we do that in such a way that we're actually going to be gently and carefully coming back to the middle in a way that creates a much more stable form of balance? All right? So I want you to be thinking about that, and I want you to bring your ideas to our meeting this Sunday night. Hope you can join us.